Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So on this session, I'm going to share with you one hot topic today, which is about AI agents with MCP architecture. So on my screen now, I have put together one diagram about this MCP architecture. So for those of you who are following these trends, I'm sure you are aware of such diagram. But anyway, let me walk you through the diagram I have put together here. So if we start with the left hand side on the client interface, this is an interface to be used by users, and it has the capability of language models. So for example, if this interface are getting query from the users, then it needs to decide like which server to be used for such a query. Once this interface is getting the response back from any of those servers, then this interface needs to do some sort of like reasoning, needs to do some analysis based on the response from the servers before giving the response back to the users. And then if we move forward to the right hand side on the servers, I put together 3 servers. So let me walk you through one by one. So for the server number 1 is going to talk to an external API through a web API. So for example, here I have put web search, and then for server number 2 I have put here as internal, which is for example can be like AI or machine learning models. And then for example here I put together 3 examples, for example prompt template, reg systems, or recommendation system. And then for the server number 3, which can be internal or web API, so I put an example here as database. So for example, CRM database or sales data. And then for this specific example, I have put together a simple video about database operations using AI agent. So overall, how this client interface, which is an AI agent, connects to all the resources. So in this MCP architecture, as you may have known, that it's connected to a standardized MCP protocol. So each of the client interface and the servers, they are operating independently, and then they are connected to each other through a standardized MCP protocol. So this is what makes this architecture modular and flexible. And then for this exercise, so I'm going to show it to you one demo using this architecture, but the example will be simplified. So for example, for server number 1, so I'm going to pick up a simple API from the weather API. So I pick up the codes from the MCP website, so you can pick up the code from there as well. And then for the server number 2, instead of going with the sophisticated AI or machine learning models, so I'm just going to use a simple math function, for example, multiplications, divisions, or additions. So again, the AI or machine learning models is not the focus of this exercise. So we are more focusing on the MCP architecture. And then the third one, the database, as I mentioned earlier to you. So I have a video about CRUD operations or database operation using AI agents. And you can see the link here on this video on the comment sections. Okay guys, so I have here the Claude Desktop with me for the demonstrations. So let me walk you through what I have here. So on this Claude Desktop, I have connected to the server already. So as you can see on my screen, this interface is connected to the DB server. So I have only one functions on the DB server. On the weather, I have 2 functions, and then on the math server, I have 3 functions. So how this interface is connected to the all servers. So if you go to the Claude settings under developer, and then on the configurations, then there is a JSON file where we can put together the locations of each of the server, and then we just need to type in the path or the locations, and then follow the template from the MCP. Then we can set up the connections to each of the servers. So as you can see on my screen. Now let's go back to the Claude Desktop. Now let's give it a try and ask some questions to this interface, and then we can ask the questions which is related to any of those servers. just to see how this interface connect with the provided servers. So let me ask one question which is going to be related to each of the servers. So I want to show like if we are throwing like 3 different questions, each of them related to one server, I want to see like how this Claude Desktop will be able to pick up the right resources for each of the questions. So let me ask the questions. Tell me the weather in CA today. Then second question, please multiply 5 by 10 and then add by 20 and get all products from the database. So each of the questions is related to the server. For example, the first question is should be related to server number 1, and question number 2 should be related to server number 2, and then question number 3 should be related to the server number 3. We want to see whether this Claude Desktop will be able to pick up the right servers for each of the questions. Let me click. So let's give a few seconds and see what we get. So yeah, I think it should be correct for the first questions. So this interface is trying to get the response from the server number 1. And then we move on to the second questions, multiply 5 by 10 and then add by 20. So that's from the server number 2. And then the third one, get all products from database. It also seems to pick up from the server number 3. And after that, because this Claude Desktop has the AI capability, then it's going to pick up all the responses and it's going to summarize and give the response back to the users. This is what I said earlier, is that this client interface has the AI capabilities to make decisions, like to connect to which server. After getting back the response from each of the server, is going to summarize the response and present the response to the users in a nice way using the language model. So the first one, the weather in California, I assume this should be correct, and then the math calculation is correct, and the database product confirmed this should be correct because this is the data that I have put into the database only for rows. So I think with that, I hope it is clear, the demo from this MCP architecture. Okay guys, so before we end the session, let's take a look at the codes that we have used for the demonstration just now. So if you see my screen on the left hand side on the subfolder MCP, that's the codes that I have used for the demo just now. So under this MCP subfolder, there is a client and there is also server, and then inside server there are 3 servers here that I have used in the demo just now. The DB server, the math server, and the weather. So let me walk you through inside the server. Let's start with the math server, which is the easiest one. So in this server, there are 2 simple actions here. One is to initiate the MCP class, the MCP server. And then on top of that, for each of the functions here, we have add functions, multiply functions, divide functions. We just need to put a decorator, which is the MCP.tool decorator on top of each of the functions. So you can imagine that you can change the functions here into a more meaningful AI or ML models, and then you can get the servers up and ready as is. And then in the DB server, this is a bit more complex than the math server. So in this DB server, so I have a DB API base, which is a localhost 8000. This is the database applications that I have run locally, and then I will put the link again on the comment sections where you can download the codes, and then you can also like run these DB applications separately, so you can understand the full picture before you integrate this DB application into this MCP architecture. So again, in this server, we need to initiate the MCP server. So as simple as one line, FastAPI, and then you need to find a functions where I put the decorator MCP.tool. So under the hood, there is a get data functions here, and this function is going to call the helper function, which is make DB request, which is here on top here, make DB request, and this make DB request is the one who is going to connect with the database API here using a post functions. It will send the URL and the headers and then the data as well from the users. And then lastly, the weather server is similar to the DB CRUD operations, so the DB server. So there is here initiations of the MCP server, and then there is also a functions which is going to be under the hood of MCP server. And then this function is going to call the API put together in this server. So you can always like experiment with each of the server as you need it, but from this exercise the goal that I want to achieve is that you understand the overall architecture of the AI agents with MCP architecture, and secondly you also understand how to put together your functions, your AI or machine learning models, your external API into each of the server, and then from there you can connect with the client interface, which is can be Claude Desktop or any other like custom client interface that you may have developed by yourself or your team. So with that, I think that's the end of the sessions. Let me know your comments and welcome any feedbacks, and don't forget to subscribe into my channels.